how about that? Like, when you think about it, like, not only are all the actual veterans dead, but, like, all the characters of Downton Abbey are dead, too.
Good. You know, by the time I stopped watching the show, I just started really hating them all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I like some of them. Just, there's no positive values in any of these characters for you.
I don't know. I mean, but the best character is obviously Shrimpy.
Oh, obviously.
Shrimpy, he's the best. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
We're talking about comics.
We're talking about comics.
Now, these are not only the first Doctor Who comics you've ever read, they are in fact the first comics you've ever read. Isn't that the case?
That's pretty much the case. I mean, I've read some what you might call graphic novels. I've read, actually no, sorry, singular. I've read 300. I think that was the only graphic novel I've ever read.
I see.
So that's like that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now you've read more.
Now I have read more. So, yeah.
So I think we agreed to read the first 10 issues. Was that correct?
I hope so, because that's what I read.
Okay, me too. I actually started the 11th issue as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, while I was waiting for the call to start, because I just had it on my desk. I have the physical floppies here.
Oh, you got the floppies. How about that?
The physical floppies of issues 1 through 10.
Wow.
So, how did you like the comics?
It was a really interesting experience for me. Overall, I did like them. I thought they were, like, interesting stories. But it's so weird seeing someone else's interpretation of what David Tennant looks like.
Yeah.
Because I know what David Tennant looks like. I've seen him plenty. And, and I guess to an extent, I have, like, a cartoonized version of him in my head. Like, or not cartoon, like, caricature. I have, like, a caricature sort of idea of what he looks like in my head. And I guess maybe other people don't have, like, this gets into, like, does everyone think that the color green looks the same? But, like, I don't know what other people think David Tennant looks like. And so this is, like, so we got, there were different artists, right?
Yeah, there was a couple of different creative teams. There were 4 different stories. Mm-hmm. One was a 3-parter called The Revolutions of Terror, which was written by Nicobadzis and illustrated by Elena Casagrande. Mm-hmm. The second story was a 2-parter called The Arts in Space by the same creative team. Mm-hmm. Then the third was The Weeping Angels of Mons, a 4-parter written by Robbie Morrison and drawn by Daniel Indro. Mm-hmm. And then the last one was a 1-parter called Echo, written by Robbie Morrison and drawn by Eleonora Carlini. So yeah, there were a total of 3 different artists and 2 different writers. No, there were 2 different writers and 3 different artists. That's right.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know the process of how comic books get made. I don't know, because I know that, like, when you're filming an episode of Doctor Who, you kind of just film which scenes are convenient to film, like, in like the tightest possible schedule. But, like, I don't know if you draw panel 1 and then you draw panel 2 and then you go on and you draw page after page in order. I don't know if you do that. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't, but I imagine you have the freedom to do whatever you want, if you really wanted to. But I don't know if there's, like, a standard way to do it, or if you are supposed to do them. Maybe you are supposed to do them in order. I have no idea.
I think it's done on a page by page basis. Like, okay. You'll do the basic layout of a page. Because you're not only drawing the panel itself, you're also designing the way the panels are going to be laid out on the page,
right? Which
is a part of the art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, you mentioned the only other comic you ever read is 300, so you haven't read Watchmen.
No,
Watchmen has like a very particular layout where it's just 9 evenly spaced panels throughout.
Huh.
Whereas different comics do some very different things, and what's done here is pretty standard. There's nothing like terribly inventive about the way panels are used here, but it's not bad. It's just kind of the standard stuff you'd expect from picking up a comic book.
No, and I actually really appreciated that, because that's what I wanted. Like, I mean, I've never read a comic, and I never really like planned on reading a comic. And so, but I was appreciative of the fact that, this comic that I was reading was like, the usual fare. This is what I should expect from comics. Like, you got like several panels maybe up towards the top of the page, and then like towards the bottom of the page you get like some kind of like almost full page art kind of thing of like this big, I don't know, like sprawling landscape or something, and the characters are in the foreground of it or whatever, and you get things like that, and like I felt like that's what it should be, and so I kind of liked that that's what we got. I mean, like not to say that like every page was like that, but enough pages that like I kind of like felt like, oh yeah, I'm getting the comic book feel, which I kind of liked. But yeah, no, and so as like a medium, I it was pretty all right. I have to say.
So I'm glad we've gotten our general review of the medium of comics.
I think listen, if we're gonna do this, we gotta start at the beginning.
Well, especially since I know that you're basically starting from a level 0 of comics literacy.
Yes.
But if you're interested in comics, kind of as an art form and kind of how they work, and from a theoretical perspective of like the way panels are laid out and the way sort of events in time are translated into position in space on the page, which can sometimes be kind of interesting when you start to think about it. A good book to read would be Understanding Comics: The Invisible Art by Scott McCloud. Yeah, I highly recommend that. It's a classic, basically, from the 90s, and it is itself like a comic book. But it goes through. It's also basic. It's also like a work of essentially like literary theory for comics. But
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Huh.
But yeah, so comics. Well,
yeah, and I mean, and the reason I talked about the order in which they are drawn is that it seems like maybe I stopped noticing it, but it seems like David Tennant is drawn more like David Tennant as we go further and further along. So I kind of got the sense that, maybe the artist was sort of getting a feel for David Tennant's face.
Yeah, the covers are all done by, I don't know, what format were you reading it in?
It was the format that was provided to me by the Comixology app.
Okay. And did you buy the 10 individual issues or the 2 collections?
I bought the 2 collections.
Okay. So I don't know if that had like a gallery of the cover images, but the covers are kind of all over the place in terms of the style in which David Tennant is drawn.
Yes.
But different artists are definitely going to have different interpretations, and that's kind of one of the things you fall into where they're doing a licensed comic based on an established character who's played by an actor, where the way the reader responds to the way, a character who may be one of their favorite characters, who maybe they have, a high level of investment in, if the way they look on the page just isn't quite right, then that can be a real problem.
Yeah, it's like some kind of, I don't know, for me, it almost felt like some kind of uncanny valley, where like I knew what David Tennant was supposed to look like here. He's got this weird like face, because the thing is, like, David Tennant has a very expressive face, and I feel like you do yourself a disservice if you don't translate that expressive face. And so if you just have like kind of a generic face on there, it doesn't really move very much. It's kind of all the same in all the different panels,
No, you don't want a generic face.
No generic faces.
No, I have to say I was not a huge fan of the art in the Weeping Angel story.
Yeah, that was like a stark contrast, because I thought what was her name, Elena
Casagrande, who did the first 5 issues,
right? Elena Casagrande, right? She, by the end of it, like at first it seemed like a little unwieldy in terms of like, I don't know, I really only noticed it with David Tennant's face. I felt like she drew like the quote unquote original characters very well, and I thought maybe it was just an issue of like she was just trying a little too hard to make David Tennant's face look a certain way. Like we would, I don't know. Like once again, this gets back to the issue of like what her interpretation of David Tennant's face might be. But I thought by the end of like the art story, I thought she was doing a very good job of capturing his face, I guess. But then we switched artists to this other guy, and it was that was like, yeah, the art style was kind of, I don't know, I kind of like immediately got the sense that like, oh, these characters are all kind of ugly looking.
Yeah, it was kind of grim and horrifying,
Yes.
which I think worked really well. The drawings of the weeping angels themselves,
Oh, yeah.
were excellent. Like I thought that was that kind of, I was reading the first couple of pages and I was like, well, why did they switch to this artist? And then once the weeping angels started being a major part of the story, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think that artist captured David Tennant particularly well. And I did think that a lot of the army characters looked very similar, and I basically had very little understanding of which one was which.
Yeah. And I was struggling to try and keep track of like when they would refer to each other by name, but like they didn't do that nearly often enough for me to adequately, keep track of it.
Yeah, and they basically like kept being sent back in time by the weeping angels, and I was like, wait, which one just got sent back? Because it was just so hard to differentiate between them. But
Yeah.
But I do think that artist didn't quite capture David Tennant well. I think one of the important things is more than the specific facial features, just like having his personality kind of show through.
Yeah.
Which I do think Elena Casagrande did a pretty good job of, and Eleonora Carlini, who did the one-part Echoes story, did a pretty good job of that too. So
Yeah, actually, that one part, sorry, what was her name? It was
I need to keep referring back to the cover. Eleonora Carlini.
Eleonora Carlini. Yeah, like I thought her, like, yeah, because this was that was one of the things, was like I could tell that they switched artists again. And I was kind of surprised with how quickly it seemed she was able to capture what I think is important about David Tennant's face and his sort of body language and stuff. And so yeah, like I thought that was kind of impressive. But
It's sort of cartoony and on the silly side.
Yeah, which I don't know. Like once again, I have no idea what to expect from comics, but I kind of like the more cartoony aspect of it, because I feel like I guess you can do obviously like super realism or whatever, but I feel like I don't know if I feel like I don't like that quite as much. I feel like I like the more cartoony kind of look a little bit better. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's different things work well for different stories. But I do think like for David Tennant, cartoony works really well.
Yeah.
And actually my favorite part of the entire series were the glimpses of Gabby's diary.
Oh yeah.
Where we got her drawings of David Tennant and her sort of perspective on things. And I thought that was really interesting, and I kind of wish they'd done more of that.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, I actually liked how that was kind of woven throughout some of the stories. I thought that was kind of a pretty neat thing. A pretty neat concept. But yeah, I like, that like David Tennant works so well as a cartoon. I don't know, like he's just cartoony.
What did you think of Gabby as a character?
She seemed interesting. I was kind of imagining her as a British actress trying to play an American actress, because that's an accessible concept to me.
Yeah, sure. In Doctor Who, it fits right in.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sticking to that interpretation. But yeah, she was interesting. I liked she's got that kind of like thirst for adventure that is kind of standard for companions in the new series, and I think that's important. But yeah,
I think she fits right in with the Russell T Davies era.
She does. That's true. She's got the family backstory. She's sort of like not trapped by family, but she's sort of like, she feels like she doesn't belong, and she's being pushed in this one direction and she doesn't want to do it. And so it's classic, or not classic, but it's perfect Russell T Davies stuff right there.
I think by now that's classic.
Yeah, I think we can call it classic. I thought she was a good companion.
Yeah, she was good, and overall, I just think it captured the sort of the feel of the 10th Doctor era. She seemed like a good foil for him.
Yeah. And
she was I don't know, she just seemed like a good companion. I think it's good to have an artist. I think that's an interesting concept for a companion, and not one. I can't think of any any other companion who's been an artist.
Yeah. Yeah, because she'd be looking at stuff in different ways, and that's good to get different perspectives on stuff, you know. But yeah, you know. Although, you know, I forget exactly where it was. I do wonder about. I mean, like, because I stopped at number 10. It sort of seemed to imply somewhere that she was somehow special, or no? Well, I don't know.
Well, in the at the end of the first story arc, which would have been issue 3, she says something about how songs have to end.
Oh, right, yeah,
or something like that. And I don't know if that's meant to imply that she has some sort of weird clairvoyance, or that, you know, just hearing that made the Doctor kind of reconsider and decide to bring her along. But I don't know, because like you, I stopped at issue 10, so I haven't read the remainder of it. And what follows issue 10 is a 5-part series finale, I guess they're calling it. Like it's the finale of the first season of the 10th Doctor comics. So I'm going to be curious to see what happens there, because I think I'll probably be checking it out.
Yeah, you know, I think if they do, I probably won't get the floppies, but if they do another collection, I'd probably pick it up.
They almost certainly will.
Yeah, you know, I'd be interested to see where this is going, because, you know, it's interesting. I mean, like, I mean, at this point, I think that the whole companion is somehow special is getting a little old. So I would like to hope they're doing something different, but I guess we'll see.
Which of the 4 stories was your favorite?
Oh, you know, I thought I was tired. You know, well, actually, no. You know, I actually don't know, because I really liked the that 2-part. I know they have titles.
The Arts in Space.
Yeah, the Arts in Space,
which is a good title, I think.
It is a very good title. I liked that because they were talking about the block transfer computations, and they brought those back.
Yeah, that was actually an awesome concept.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing, is like I liked how that really like took the concept that had already been established and really expanded on it. I thought that was really cool. And so, you know, like I like the idea of, like, you know, like singing these things can make art. Like that's a really neat idea. And so, you know, I thought that was really interesting and cool. But I also you know, as off-putting as the art kind of was, well, or at least some of the art kind of was, I really did like the Weeping Angels story too. And I kind of liked the idea. I mean, like, I thought I was tired of the Weeping Angels, and I probably am to an extent. But I did like the idea of, like, oh yeah, this is basically what would happen in World War I, where people were dying and they didn't have, because, like, the concept, one of the things that I think kind of got muddled a little bit when Stephen Moffat brought them back in subsequent stories is that, you know, the whole idea was that was them feeding off of potential energy.
Yeah,
and I kind of feel like they got away from that a little bit, or at least it wasn't quite as important.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and so I liked them sort of bringing that back in and sort of saying, like, oh yeah, you know, potential energy, I guess, is quantifiable. Well, yeah, of course it's quantifiable, but, like, the idea, like oh yeah, if all these people were just going to die in the war, you know, within a very short time span, you know, they're probably not very nourishing, and you know, so that would cause a lot of problems. Although I do think it's a little weird that, like, why would the Weeping Angels just not go migrate to a place where there wasn't a world war happening? I mean, obviously, okay, world war kind of implies that the whole world is involved, but it wasn't really the whole world. I mean,
yeah, there's plenty of other countries out there that weren't involved in the war at all. Right,
exactly. This is a very Eurocentric plot in that, like, it seems to presume that, like, the Weeping Angels just wouldn't travel outside of Europe or I guess America. Whenever I forget the exact timeline of World War I, so I don't know when America joined up. They came in pretty late, though.
Yeah,
but I liked the concept. I liked the idea.
It is a good concept, and I think when it sort of drifted away from the original concept of the Weeping Angels during the Moffat era. So and that's not that surprising. Like, for instance, the Daleks, part of their original concept was static electricity.
Yeah,
which hasn't really been a part of them since ever again. But I do like the idea that, okay, well, this is we're going back into the Russell T Davies era, so we're back before before the time of angels, before it was established that, the image of an angel becomes an angel.
Yep.
Before, like, angel babies and angel Statue of Liberty. So it's just it's a 10th Doctor angel story that is more rooted in the principles of the very first story they appeared in.
Yeah.
So it fits the era really well. And it's kind of funny that, the angels are more easily associated with the 11th Doctor because they're a Moffat creation and because they appeared alongside the 11th Doctor more. But, their first appearance was with the 10th Doctor. So it's interesting to see another 10th Doctor angel story.
Yeah, because you sort of get the sense... I mean, obviously, if we're going to have like this kind of broader sense of what canon is, we can't really we can't really focus too hard on these things. But you get the sense in, or at least I feel like you get the sense in the Time of Angels. Maybe I was just interpreting it in the way I wanted it to, that I wanted to interpret it. But you kind of get the sense that like the Doctor has only ever encountered these angels once before in the time. He seems to imply that in the Time of Angels / Flesh and Stone. I don't know how true that is.
Well, even in Blink, he seems to know what they are already.
That's right.
Although it's not clear whether he just got that from Sally Sparrow's notes or whether he just had prior knowledge. But it seems like the Time Lords are familiar with them because they're referenced in the End of Time as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not like bothered by that.
Yeah.
Not in any real sense that matters. So I kind of like them getting back to. Because the rules that that Stephen Moffat sets up in Blink are interesting, and and this story sort of serves to prove that like if you work within those rules, you can have more interesting stories, and you can set it during interesting time periods where the angels might be doing something a little differently or be forced to do something a little differently, and I think that's I don't know, I think that's cool.
But it's just if you take that original concept and you give it the tiny twist of like. World War I prevents them from doing the thing to a high degree of efficiency. It does allow for a story that doesn't really feel like it's retreading old ground. It feels fresh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and something that I guess is kind of as far as I know, it's an unwritten rule. I can't remember how definite it is, but it seems to be implied, or it's furthered here. The idea that the people who get sent in the past usually don't live. Beyond the point where they were originally zapped into the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's the way it seems to work. I guess. Yeah. Well, from here, it seems to work that way. Almost exactly.
That's true. Yes.
But in Blink, you have Billy Shipton who dies. Within about an hour after his younger self gets zapped back.
Yeah. And that seems odd, though, because I think it's also, I'm pretty sure it's established in Blink that each angel has, like, a certain length of time they'll send you back to, and, like, it's something that's, like, tied to the individual angel that touches them.
I don't think that's really established, though.
Hang on.
I know in The Angels Take Manhattan, Amy asks the Doctor, if I go with the same angel... will it send me back to Rory? And the Doctor says, I don't know, nobody knows.
Give me a minute. You've
got a minute. You have 1 minute.
All right, well, I'll do my best. Here we go. Doctor says, welcome. Billy says, where am I? Doctor says, 1969, not bad as it goes. You've got the moon landing to look forward to. Martha says, oh, the moon landing's brilliant. We went 4 times. Back when we had transport. The Doctor said, working on it. Billy said, how did I get here? The Doctor says, same way we did. Touch of an angel. Same one, probably, since you ended up in the same year.
Okay. Well, probably.
Yeah.
That's funny, because the 11th Doctor claims not to know that.
Maybe he learned less. I mean, well, there's a lot that the Doctor doesn't know. Well, okay, so here's the thing, is he does say probably. So,
yeah.
There's no hard evidence. It could be that the Doctor has... I mean, the Doctor's been known to scrap theories that he'd had previously.
Yeah. True.
But in any case, the reason I say that for this is that we have 2 separate characters who get zapped back to basically the same time and place. They're on a train.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that they get zapped, or do they get zapped simultaneously? I don't know. And it's actually interesting to me because it seems like in a lot of cases they get zapped back and then die almost right away, with the exception of that one guy whose name I can't remember. which I thought was interesting because I wondered, and I don't think that this is ever explicitly said, I wondered if it was tied to, if how long they lived in the past was tied to how long they would have lived anyway. Because I don't know. Because there's not a lot to go on.
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, because it seemed kind of weird to me that, like, okay, well, these guys were in a war zone. They probably would have been killed, or they could have been killed at any moment, you know, but now here they are in the midst of another disaster about to happen.
Right.
Which I wonder, like, I wonder if the angel intended for that to happen, or if that was just like that's just the laws of time, and you don't get to extend someone's life by zapping them into the past. If they were destined to die, they're gonna die.
That's really weird if true.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah.
But it seems to me that must be it, because it must be that, like, the people who died immediately were the people who were just going to die anyway, and the people who lived long lives afterwards were the ones who would have survived the war.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. That's never directly said that that's how it works, but it kind of makes a little bit of sense, you know, that, like, you know, you that's just how it would be. But you also wouldn't want your subject to live longer than they would have died anyway. Or no, that doesn't. So, like, if your subject that you send back in time was gonna die, was gonna like get, you know, shot, whatever, the next morning, you know, you wouldn't want them to then get zapped back 30 years and then live another 50. You know, that couldn't be, because then they'd have more potential energy than they had before, or something. Yeah,
but that wouldn't have a negative impact on the angel, would it?
I don't know if it would have a negative impact, but, like, where would that potential energy come from?
I don't know.
I don't know how potential energy works.
I don't know where it comes from anyway.
Where did it come from? Where did it go?
Where did it come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
But I like what this does for angel lore. Basically, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a valuable addition to the Weeping Angels anthology. Yeah. I found the ending a little bit ripped off from Human Nature.
In that
the Doctor and his companion go visit, you know.
Oh yeah.
Remembrance Day ceremony or whatever that was.
Yeah. That did feel pretty ripped off. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's the same. Yeah, I don't know. It's the same war though, so, you know, you got to figure there'd be a similar way to wrap it up.
Well, yeah, and maybe, they do it in 2007, which is the same year that the Doctor and Martha go see Tim.
Yeah, so the Doctor's visiting a lot of World War I services in 2007. I guess we need to accept that.
If you ever need to find him, just go to 2007 on Remembrance Day.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you know, and that's, well, you got to figure, I'm sure we have a record of this. How many, do we still have World War I veterans alive today? Like, in 2015? Because there's a cutoff. I mean, you know, just natural human lifespan.
I would be surprised if there were very many.
Well, right, because this is, yeah, we're getting on like 100 years. Well, like, yeah, like they would be well over 100 years right now. They'd be old. Not to say that's not possible. I mean, I know that I have looked up the Wikipedia list of oldest people.
The last living veteran died in 2012.
Wow, that's crazy. Not crazy, but, like, that's expected. But, like, I mean, wow, yeah. So we have no World War I veterans anymore. That's almost
not that surprising.
I know it's not. I mean,
it's a long time ago.
I know, but it doesn't feel. Maybe this is thanks to Downton Abbey, but it doesn't feel that long ago to me.
No, it feels like it was.
It was season 2.
Yeah, that was only in season 2. So yeah, the Weeping Angels, that was your favorite one?
Either that or the art one. I don't know.
I really like the Arts in Space. I think that was my favorite.
Yeah, I think it's got to be one of those two for me.
Because that was the one that had the most heavy use of the diary drawings as a narrative device, and I really liked that. I thought that was a very interesting, you know, spin on the comic format. So yeah, I like that. And I also, obviously, I love the block transfer computation concept too, because who doesn't need more, you know, Christopher Bidmead?
I know that I can certainly afford to have some more Christopher Hamilton Bidmead in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like I feel like the other stories were fine, but I feel like they were more, I don't know, at this point in time, across all media, a lot of aliens have invaded New York.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little weird that we got 2 separate invasions, basically, of New York.
I thought they were a little too similar, the first and fourth stories.
Yeah, they're both these kind of, like, almost intangible beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean...
The first one, I did enjoy it because I liked the characters it was setting up.
Yeah.
And I thought it had a very, like, it evoked the Russell T Davies premiere feeling very well. It just seemed like it seemed like it was such a perfect, like, drawing you back into the world of the 10th Doctor.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I do think it definitely functioned as drawing you back into that world. Although, I don't know, something about it was a little, and I guess this came out in what, 2014?
Yeah, it would have started in 2014.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes kind of sense. Like, when I was reading this, because I've actually kind of watched the David Tennant episodes kind of recently, and it was a little bit weird because they drop a lot of references to stuff that happened in the 10th Doctor era, but they don't really. But it's kind of just like almost, I don't know. To me, because I had watched these episodes sort of recently, it felt more like it was just a rehash, and that didn't really do anything with it. Kinda like it just kind of like oh yeah, he's got devices that go ding, and so like yeah, well, that's a thing again.
I think that's something that happens in all of the, like, expanded universe media that revisits a Doctor after their time.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, John Pertwee, Reverse the Polarity is a much bigger thing in everyone's imagination of John Pertwee than it was during the actual Pertwee era.
Right.
But it's something that you probably got to throw into basically every John Pertwee comic or audio. It has to have that reference. Or like if you're doing a story with the 5th Doctor and Tegan, he's going to say Braveheart Tegan, which is this one thing he said to Tegan once that everyone thought, oh, that's a good line, and so they just repeat it over and over again in Big Finish and comics and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's at the same time as they're doing a 10th Doctor story, they're also doing, like, a self-conscious tribute to the 10th Doctor.
Right.
So, like, goes ding when there's stuff kind of fits into that.
Right. Yeah. And I understood that. I understood that they were just doing that, to sort of, like, get you back in the feel of things. But I also, like, because like, for my particular perspective, I'd already been watching these episodes. I didn't need that, so it kind of felt like it was just like it was weighing me down. But I can understand. I certainly understand the purpose it serves, and so I'm not like bothered by it that much. But I just thought it was a little awkward for me. But it is fun because these are things that are definitely unique to the 10th Doctor, and I do kind of miss a little bit, like the silly contraptions that he would just throw together.
Yeah.
And I liked him calling. What did he call it? His equipment hut.
Yeah,
I liked him just not wanting to explain what the TARDIS was, so he just called it an equipment hut, which it basically is.
Yeah, one weird thing is that in that story, the Doctor there are moments where you see, like, pictures of his enemies.
When is this?
Like, for instance, at the very beginning of the third part of the 3-parter. Mm-hmm. On the very first page, like, I guess you're seeing a picture of, like, what's in his head as he like, his fears.
Oh.
But one of them is the Master in his End of Time form with, like, the hoodie. Which hasn't happened yet. So I don't know if that's a continuity error or if it
could be wibbly wobbly.
I don't know.
It could be wibbly wobbly. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, I don't know, maybe that's because, at this point, or at least I think at this point, no, definitely at this point, I don't know. He has already gotten the he will knock 4 times thing, right? Like, or because when does the Ood say the thing about the song ending? That's
in series 4. That's in Plan
that's
the
right.
Ood. So this is definitely after Journey's End, and definitely before the End of Time, but where in between there is not clear.
Right. Because it could be that this is all happening between the waters of Mars and the End of Time, but there's nothing. because it's implied there that he did a lot of traveling, but there's no way to know for sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure. There might be like an official word from the author or something, but I haven't heard it.
Interesting.
Also, in that in the third part of the opening 3-parter, did you spot Trinity Wells?
Oh yeah, I did. I loved that. I heard her voice in my head.
Yeah, she's a completely necessary part of the Russell T Davies era, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I'm glad they managed to work her in. I was kind of wishing she was going to be in like The Day of the Doctor or something, but
yeah, it's too bad because you'd think that would be like a staple. I don't know.
I think she should get her own like Big Finish box set, the Trinity Wells Chronicles. If Winston Churchill gets his own 4-part box set,
yeah,
then why not Trinity Wells? She's been in more episodes than he has.
Right. I mean, like, come on. I mean, you can't be a reporter for this long and not start asking questions about all these things you're reporting on. Like, I mean, come on. You telling me, like, this is the thing. She's been reporting on all these stories about, like, all these invasions that are happening across the world, and then they get resolved, like, in this mysterious way. And you're telling me, like, she's this probably very intelligent, American reporter, and you're telling me she's not questioning at all what the bigger story is here. She needs a scoop, and I think like she's gonna. This is like, you could definitely take this into like this is leading right into an avenue of her getting her own investigation, agency or something,
Yeah, well, I mean, she could carry on where Sarah Jane left off.
Yeah, exactly.
Another journalist who got involved in supernatural doings.
That's right. Yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. I would watch that or listen to it. Is that actually an American actress, or is that just someone with a pretty good imitation of an American reporter?
I don't know, but she does do a very good American reporter.
Yeah.
If that's not her real accent, then good job to her, because she does sound authentic American reporter.
Yeah. I think it would be really weird to see her in anything else. I don't know if she's done other things.
Well, maybe she's just like the guy who plays Perd Hapley, where he's just always the newscaster.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my god, I love that. Yeah, that's the thing, is you get really good at that, and then that's easy. It's like that guy. It's like that guy who's an extra and everything. I forget what his name is, but
I don't know who you're talking about. But
he was in a Super Bowl commercial a while back, but he's been in like the background of a lot of I think TV shows and stuff. But he basically like I wish I could remember his name, because it's kind of a huge. I don't know how else I would identify him, because he doesn't play characters or anything. But like that's kind of what he does, is he's just for whatever reason he's a normal looking person, and so he gets into the background of a lot of things, because he's not like, he doesn't stand out as being like weird or anything. He's normal. Give me a second here.
Do you even remember what the commercial was for?
Yeah, it was for GoDaddy. It was like an awkward thing, I guess they were doing, where it was like he was making out with a supermodel.
That guy.
Yeah,
he's in
guy.
Chuck.
Oh, is he?
He's got kind of like a red face.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forget what his name is.
Jesse Heyman.
Jesse Heyman. There you go.
Yeah, he's a prominent recurring character on Chuck.
Oh, is he?
Well, I mean, not that prominent, but he's notably in a lot of episodes of Chuck. He plays Fernando.
Oh, okay.
That's what he plays. Yeah, he is in a lot of things.
Yeah. He gets a lot of work, because he's not like he just looks like a normal human being, and so he gets a lot of work that way, I guess. So yeah, and I think there's something to that.
Well, okay.
So now,
anyhow.
But yeah. So yeah, I want to see Trinity Wells get her own series.
Yeah, they could do her own spin-off comic too. I mean, she's already appeared in the comics once. So.
That's right. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that.
So are you going to carry on with the rest of the year 1 of the 10th Doctor comics?
I feel like, well, how much, well, so like is this just going on? So what's the deal with this? Is this...
Well, they're doing 5 more. They're doing up through issue 15, okay. And then they're pausing all of their existing series and then doing a thing called The Four Doctors by Paul Cornell, which has the 10th Doctor and Gabby, as well as the 11th Doctor and his comic companion Alice, and the 12th Doctor and Clara, and the War Doctor.
Ah,
and then once that wraps up, they start with a brand new issue 1 of what they're calling 10th Doctor Year 2. This is something comic books do a lot, where they'll just decide, all right, this new issue is going to be issue 1.
Oh, okay.
Even if it's the same creative team, we'll just call this one issue 1, and then they'll just restart the numbering. So that they're doing that.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, I think I'm committed. Like, I think, I'm already 2/3 of the way there. I think I gotta know what happens, because I feel like this is a story that I want to see wrapped up. Because and that's the thing, is I do like Gabby as a companion, so I think like that alone is enough to pull me along to say that, like, yeah, I want to see where this goes, because I'm invested now.
Yeah. I too will continue, and I might also check out the 11th Doctor ones too.
Yeah, like now that I've bought into this medium, I think I gotta go check out some of the stuff now. I might as well check out other Doctors.
Well, yeah, they've done the 10th, 11th, and 12th. There's a 9th Doctor miniseries that's 5 issues. And they're doing an 8th Doctor miniseries that's 5 issues.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, especially the 9th Doctor. Like, I want more 9th Doctor. I'll take it any way I can get it.
Yeah, it's the 9th Doctor, Rose and Jack.
Oh, that's cool. I'd be down with that.
I assume these are in the collected editions. There's these like little 1-page thingies.
Yes.
Did you read those?
I skimmed them.
Yeah, I didn't read them all.
Oh, okay.
They're kind of throwaway, they seem to me, so I threw them away.
Oh, well, that's one way to do it.
Maybe I'll go back and read them. I read the Psychic Paper Claims Department was kind of cute.
Oh, I actually think I skipped that one.
It's like a psychic paper like tech support run by various psychic Doctor Who creatures. Like, there's a member of the Pompeii Sisterhood and a Sensorite from the first Doctor era.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Why not have that?
Why not, indeed?
This return to the idea that, and this happens a lot it happens a bit in the 10th Doctor era, and it happens a bit in the 11th Doctor era, and I don't think it's happened since the 12th Doctor got started. But a recurring theme that's brought up here is the Doctor's abuse of the lottery system.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder, how often he does this, and if the lottery is at all random chance at all in the Doctor Who universe, or if it's always just the Doctor giving money to people. Because he does it so much, and there's so much of the Doctor,
That's true.
He spends a lot of time in the 20th century, and I mean,
maybe that's why there's a lottery.
It's because he founded it.
He founded it so that he could have a means of moving sums of money around.
That could very well be. I think we have to assume that, at least in the Doctor Who universe, the Doctor just is crowdfunding, and this is just how he's going about crowdfunding. I mean,
it seems kind of awful.
It kind of is, especially with all the ideas that it's disproportionately used by people with lower incomes. It seems like it's actually kind of a mean thing for the Doctor to do, but
Yeah.
I wonder if the Doctor realizes all these consequences that he's created. He just goes around. He's not around. He goes and solves problems, and he never sticks around to see what happens. This is how Satellite 5 happened.
That's true.
Huh. He could have set up this. I would love to see a Doctor Who story where he comes back to the 21st century or whatever and sees how horrible the lottery has gotten, and he's
I've gone out of control.
This is supposed to be the second great and bountiful human empire or whatever, but it's all wrong. It's all lottery based.
Yeah, that actually does sound like a pretty good idea for a Doctor Who story, like the Lottery of Evil or whatever.
Yeah, I would absolutely watch that story.
I'm sure we could come up with a better title than the Lottery of Evil, but
yeah, well, we'll work on it.
Okay, so next week we're going to listen to The Chimes of Midnight.
That's right.
Featuring the 8th Doctor and Charlie Pollard.
Yeah. Now, is this a companion? I don't know the order in which, or if I even need to know the order in which the 8th Doctor had companions. Is this?
Well, no one really knows the order in which the 8th Doctor had companions, because no one knows whether the audios, the books, or the comics come first, or even if they can be reconciled with one another.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's one of these situations.
But yeah, Charlie was his first audio companion.
Oh, okay.
And you would have heard her in Light at the End.
Right.
And basically, this is a bit of sort of required backstory going into The Chimes of Midnight, is that in Charlie's first appearance, the Doctor met her aboard the Airship 101, the Airship R101.
Okay.
Which was a famous airship disaster.
Oh.
And she was supposed to have died, but he saved her, thinking, it's probably not that big of a deal that this person who was supposed to die has not died. And that's that's sort of a recurring mystery throughout. I don't know if I'd call it a mystery, actually, but it's a recurring thing throughout the early part of their travels together, that there's this sort of shadow hanging over them that, she doesn't know it, but he's kind of bent the rules a little bit in taking her with him. And that is referenced in here, so just in case you're wondering what that's all about when it comes up, that's what it's all about.
Huh. Well, it's good to know that that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool.
And not, in fact, the hokey pokey. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around, and that may not be all that it's all about.
Oh. I've been living a lie.
Yeah. Well, it sucks.
Yeah, it does.